Welcome to Untamed Social. I'm Rachel.
I'm Ella.
I'm really excited today to talk about remote work and what that's like. And it's super timely for us right now because we just met up with our team this week. And we work remote. So like 100% remote team. Everybody is somewhere else in the United States. So it's a really timely topic for us, especially working in social media as well.
Yeah, for a lot of us, that was the first time that we have ever met before.
Mm-hmm.
We've just seen each other on Zoom meetings, we email a ton, we Slack some. Um, but overall, it was just a really great experience actually being able to like meet people face to face, have conversations, and like
Yeah.
strengthen the bonds that we kind of already had built online and like actually have those become more solidified. So it was a great
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, I think so too. Um, well, let's talk about like some of the differences with like in person versus virtual encounters. It's like we're used to working virtually, so it was different having everybody in the same room. But what was funny
Yeah.
is there were times when like we were all like on our computers or phones because like that's what we do. But Um, but yeah, I thought we could talk a little bit about like the differences in the connection, maybe the collaboration there. What do you
Yeah,
think?
totally. Well, I've been thinking about this because one of the things that I notice, my husband works at a bank and sometimes he can work remote and sometimes he goes into the office. But I feel like when you work in an office, there is a little more lax and downtime, meaning like if you're having a conversation with your coworker, you're still at work and you're still getting paid to do that. So
Yeah.
in between working, like you're also like having like the water cooler discussions and like
Mm,
stuff like that, which is something we don't really get.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then the other side of that we noticed what I was working with Anna on something, and Anna is our graphic designer for anyone that doesn't know. Um, and she was like working on something for one of my clients and I was able to give her like feedback and we were able to like talk about something in real time, which was really cool and like something
Yeah.
we haven't been able to do before. Usually we just email back and forth.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say that there's like pros and cons for sure because you're not,
Yeah.
but the other on the flip side of that, when you emailing with someone back and forth, you have like written
Mm,
proof of what's been
yeah.
said. So you
Yeah.
can go back and look and be like, wait, what was said? Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
remember now.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you there. And I think that, like you said, the in person definitely solidified sort of the relationships that we'd already built online. And it was great because I felt like it was an easy mesh. I had somebody say to me
Yes.
when they saw the pictures and videos that, like how happy everybody looked and like everybody looks like they actually connect really well. But it's so weird because we've never actually met before, And so it just sort of clicked, And I think it's our culture, and that we're really lucky to have that. Because I know my husband doesn't like water cooler talk, so like
Yeah.
he
Me
would
either.
rather just he would rather just get work done. But and I think it's also different with men and women. I think most of our team are women, so and women are generally more social. So I think there's a difference there too. We could actually do that.
Yeah, totally. Well,
Um,
I actually think that's a pro for me. I'm not a huge fan of water cooler talk. I'm like, if I'm at work, I want to get my work done and
mm,
leave. Like, I'm not really here
yep.
to make friends with my coworkers. I know that that's terrible, but I'm an introvert. So, for me, that's actually a pro of the job.
Yeah.
That like I just get to do my work,
Yeah.
but somehow I've still been able to cultivate these relationships
Yeah.
with our team, and it did feel natural. Like I think that that's maybe a misconception that people have about remote work is we're all like introverts in our cave typing on our computer and then like we don't really interact with each other outside of that. But the fact that we were able to like mesh so well in person just means that like we had already meshed before. Like we were just building off of that.
Right. No,
You can
totally.
do that.
Well, and I think, we have meetings, like I know you guys have a creative meeting. We have one-on-ones for certain things. I mean, and just today, like implementing, like I have lunch with another coworker virtually, get to know them more. I'm like you too, that like when I'm working, I'm in work mode. So I don't really want to socialize, and I'm sort of introvert, like situational extrovert. So like when I'm done working, then I feel like I could turn on like the let me be social butterfly type of vibe.
Yes.
So like when I get things that are like not work related during the day, I just sort of hang on to them.
Me too.
Till I get through, because I don't want to lose focus.
No, I feel bad sometimes because, as I mentioned before, obviously I work remote and sometimes my husband does too. And I'm sure you relate to this, but he'll like, if I'm working and he like says something to me,
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have space for that right now. Like I'm
Yep.
working right now. And so I feel kind of bad, but also like, I don't have the mental capacity for that right now. I'm working.
Mhm.
And then like, give me like 5 minutes to finish this email and then I can like give that more thought.
Oh, it's the same exact thing with me. And now that you've seen
Yeah.
my house, my like office is a part of 3 rooms. So we have the dining room, living room. So when my husband works from home every other day, and when he's here, he's just doing whatever, and he'll do the same thing. He'll start talking to me, and I'll say, "Virtual door. I have a
Yeah.
virtual door up right
Virtual
now.
door.
I can't process it." And our job is so detailed too that like it's you can't focus on that and like listen to another person at the same time. So the hybrid work model is funny. I don't know if I could do that, like in office, home. I would want one or the other, but I'll notice that my husband is a lot more productive at work. When he's here, I feel like he's doing anything but work. Don't tell his boss, but like he's like, oh, I'm going to run the vacuum downstairs, and I'm going to drop off the dry cleaning. I think we could make some appointments for the cat. And I'm like, but why don't you just get your work done? And then he finally starts working maybe sometime in the afternoon, and he ends up working late because he's been kind of messing around all day doing whatever random thing that he sees. That's just not how I work. Like when I'm working, I can't just like veer off into like a home project or something.
No, me either. I'm like in my mode and that's it. And then once I'm done, I can switch modes. But I think that that is part of the reason why I enjoy remote working and probably you as well. I genuinely think that there's some people, and they'll admit this, they say, I cannot be a remote worker because I don't have
Mm,
like the motivation. I can't just sit down and be self-motivated to get
yeah.
my work done. And I will admit, like, you definitely have to be motivated. I am definitely a serial procrastinator. I was a huge procrastinator in college. But you can't be that way when it comes to remote work, especially I think in our business because, well, maybe any business, stuff comes up. Like that's just the
Yeah.
nature of it. And so you have to make sure that your work is done so that
Yeah.
way when stuff does come up, you're not like stressed and having to
Yes.
work all day and things fall through the cracks.
Right. What we do is very timely. So,
Yeah.
it's up to the minute with certain things and with certain clients. So if you have waited to do something, it's too late when something else
Yeah.
happens. But that's interesting what you say, because you do have to have a certain level of discipline and drive, I think, to be able
Yeah.
to do this. Like my dad said that he would never want to work in an office, never want to work in front of a computer. He was a dock worker and he drove truck. Like that's a whole different line of work. For me, I would never want to do that. I'm happy being in front of a computer. And I think that like you just have to have discipline. Like for me, I don't turn the TV on till I'm done working. I might have music playing in the background, but like there are just certain things I don't do while I'm working because I'll get distracted. I'll get hooked on a Netflix show and then I won't want to get back to work. So.
Yeah, totally.
So it's probably a good time to talk about balancing kind of work and life, because it's not like, hey, it's 5 and we're leaving the office.
Yeah.
It's our home. So it's hard sometimes to separate that. And I think there's also an expectation that we're always supposed to be available.
Yes.
And that's really hard too, especially when we have people like that are procrastinators on their end, like a client or somebody, and then they wait to the 11th hour and it's Friday at 5 and they're like, hey, I need a post done. It's hard because you do feel like you need to be available 24/7. So I thought we could just talk about that a little bit, how it's affected you, like how you've set boundaries, worked through it.
Yeah, totally. Well, again, I might have mentioned this earlier, but my husband works at a bank. So his hours are 9 to 5. And when the bank closes, he's done. Like maybe he gets a random email in the evening, but it's because someone else is working late, but he doesn't have to answer it.
Yeah.
Our line of work is very different from that because, like you mentioned, we get contacted at all hours. We have one client who loves to email us at 2 a.m. Don't know why. We have clients on the West Coast, so they're 3 hours behind us. So when it's 5 p.m. for us, it's only 2 p.m. for them. So I would again say that like you have to kind of know yourself and know like, is that something that I can deal with? Because not everything is emergency. And so I think you have to determine like, this can wait, but there are some things that we do have to deal with outside of working hours. And so that's just kind of the nature of the work. And if you understand that and it can accept that, then that's good. But that doesn't mean that there's not ways for you to like balance in the meantime. Like you shouldn't always be on call. That's not good for anyone's mental health.
I like what you say about working hours though, because working hours is kind of different for everybody on our team, depending on the nature of our work and also just how we work. And that's the good thing is we have that flexibility to say, I think I want to work during these times for the most part. Of course, you have to be prepared for certain things that fall out of that time. But generally speaking, like we could set our hours. I know for me, I like to start earlier before it gets busy. And then I'll take like a break in the afternoon and I'll come back a little bit later in the afternoon and finish stuff through the early evening. I'd much rather that than like being stuck in like a block for 6-7 hours straight. This helps me refresh a little bit. But again, you have to have the discipline because if you break away to do something, you could easily say, I don't really feel like going back to work. No.
Easily.
But it is a business. I tell people, that are considering going into this business. This is not, it is not for somebody who just wants to work a 9 to 5. Well, you can set your own hours. It is very hard to be away, and like truly be away, especially when you're like client facing. The clients used to coming to you. So, and one of our core values is communication. So we don't want to just leave the client hanging if like they reach out and they need something, but we might be away or we might be making dinner. And I'm so used to that now. It's almost like it's a weird day when I don't get something after hours,
Yeah, you're like, is something wrong?
It's tough, but I've seen people do it well. And I think you made a good point about setting boundaries. And also like knowing what can be responded to now and what is something that like can wait. And I know like Lainey does a really, really good job. Like Lainey is our EVP and she does not respond to emails or texts or Slacks or anything on the weekend. Or when she's off on vacation, she's like the only person I've ever known that can like, whoa, she's gone. And she means it. She may get those messages because I know when emergencies happen, she still reach out, but she's like, I don't need to respond to that. And I really appreciate that discipline too, because for me, it kind of hangs over my head that like, I really just want to get that off my plate, respond to it or handle it, but there's nothing that's ever fallen in the cracks with her model. So I know I should adopt it. I think I've just set in my ways after doing this for so long.
I know. Well, yeah, Lainey is really good at that. And I feel like she's kind of empowered me to do a better job at that because there was a time period where it was like, no matter what time I got a Slack, I was going to answer it because I wanted to be like there for the client. And like, it was fine, but it's a lot better when you can just say, shut the laptop unless there's an emergency. Yeah. This can wait until tomorrow.
Right.
And especially, I think that a lot of that does take planning, especially with vacations, which is something that our team is really good at. So, like, we make sure to let the client know, I will be gone from this date to this date. And if you
Yeah.
need something, contact this person. We
Right.
set on our Slacks that we're away. We put automatic email responses. We
Yeah.
make sure that someone on our team is like prepared to handle stuff
Yes.
while we're away. So, like, it does take some preparation as well. But it's definitely worth it. That way you can be fully like present in
Yes.
whatever else you're doing.
Yes, we do have that down. I feel bad for people who are solopreneurs and they don't have team members to rely
I
on.
know.
And I remember a time when I just started my business and maybe a year or so in, so it was just mostly me. And I had one guy who never talks to me suddenly want something, and he was relentless about it. It bothered me. I was literally on a 3 or 4 day vacation. That was it. It wasn't anything super long, but like it ruined my vacation.
Yeah.
I didn't have somebody to just delegate it to. I could just say, okay, so, well, I'm out. I can handle it. So I do feel bad for those people but they could still set boundaries. And communication is everything. Being upfront with the customer, like, I'm going to be gone this time. This is the expectation. That way, if a customer does bother you, especially if it's something non-urgent, you told them you're going to be away. So you don't have to feel obligated to respond to that.
Yeah. And it kind of sets that expectation for them too, because I know that sometimes we've had clients go on vacation and that's not something that they communicate with us. And so we're emailing them about stuff and we're not getting responses and we're like, okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
But if we can kind of establish that like boundary and like that expectation going forward, they're also more likely to follow it with us and let us know when they're not going to be answering stuff, right? Or maybe we can contact someone else when they're out. So it's just good to always, it does take planning, but like it's going to make your life so much easier. I promise.
Let's talk about being always on, because that's kind of how it feels. And I feel I've been doing this particular job well before everybody started working from home. So this has been 15 years that I've been working from home. But I'm somebody who likes to be on top of things. So if I would get a message, I would want to make sure I responded. Mm-hmm. But one of the things I've done now is I don't have any notifications on anything except one person on Slack and text. And they don't ding or anything. Like, I'll see the number. But I don't have notifications on my phone for email, for Facebook, for anything else. And I even silence a lot of people in text too, because I'll feel obligated to respond. But that's helped me a lot. The only thing I have to be careful of is like, I'm at the gym or whatever. I'm just going to peek and see if I have any emails. Let's see if there's any Slacks waiting for me. That's how I get sucked in. I need to just not do it.
Just don't even check them. I have tried that before, and it actually, I feel like, has the opposite effect for me, because then I'm like, oh my gosh, what if I got an email? Like, that's important. I need to check my email. Versus like if I just had the notification on, then I would know that I didn't get an important email. So I've tried it both ways. And for me, I do like to have my notifications on. But I have limited my notifications a lot. And I don't know if that's just because we're social media managers, but like the amount of notifications that I could get if I let them all in is probably like hundreds a day, between all of the clients, like Facebook updates and like all the emails and all the Slacks. Like, it can get very overwhelming. And so anything that's like not important, like I go through and I shut off a lot of Instagram notifications, Facebook notifications, because they can get very overwhelming. There was a client, a client of ours that started blowing up a while back and getting a bunch of messages, and I had them on. And I was seriously getting like probably hundreds just from them every day. So I had to shut it off. Can't do it.
That fear of missing out is real. It really is in this industry, because it would be that one time that you feel like, I'm just not gonna, turn anything on and shut down. That something would happen.
Literally.
But everybody has to do what works for them, and I've done it all different ways. I'm still somebody, even on vacation, I'm checking in, and I'm the company owner though. like that's not always the expectation for everybody that works from home, especially working for a traditional company and they work from home. Like that's not the expectation. That's something I put on myself, as the owner, because I ultimately it ends with me. So I want to make sure that like everything's taken care of. It usually is, but I just don't like anything falling in the cracks.
I know. I get the same way.
So let's talk about since we work in social media and we work remote, how it kind of differs in real life, like our use of social media versus working in social media. I know for me, I personally really am not on social media much at all for my personal use. And it's almost annoying because I have to use it for business. And then like people that are like my personal friends are sending me stuff and I'm like working. And like with Facebook, you can see that they saw it and they're probably like, why did you ignore it? But like I'm working right now and I'm in work mode, so I can't like, respond right now. But I really only use social media to like go to all the client stuff and like it every day or whatever, or make sure everything's going okay. Or if it's something that like I get hooked on, like I'm a big reality TV junkie, so I'll start following people on TikTok or Instagram and wanting to know updates and things like that. But other than that, I absolutely do not really use it. I don't scroll through stuff every day and like look to comment.
Oh man. I am kind of half and half. I am a silent social media user, as they say. So like I am on it a lot. Yeah. I'm scrolling a lot. But when it comes to like managing my own social media and like posting updates on my personal profiles, it's not happening. Like I've just made 10 posts today for clients. I'm also not making a post for my personal account. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, my social media maybe gets like 1 or 2 posts a year, and that's all you're getting from me. And that's all I can handle, really.
And that's okay. It can be a chore. I know for me, I have to consciously like do it. And it's a chore, but I don't do it as much as I used to. I mean, I used to update Facebook constantly. Now it's like maybe once a week, every other week. I don't know. It doesn't really matter, but just so people know I'm still here and I'm alive.
Yeah.
But I try to keep things updated. But it is a lot, and there's so many channels now. But I got enough content with podcasts, having a team. There's always stuff going on. It's just one more thing to do sometimes.
Yeah. I always wonder, like with other careers, if you're in another career, maybe let us know. But like chefs, for instance, they spend all day cooking these elaborate meals. When you get home, I doubt that they're cooking themselves an elaborate meal. I bet they're just throwing themselves something together. And so I kind of feel like that's what we do. Like after spending all day doing this, we just don't like our own stuff gets neglected just because we've already devoted all of that mental capacity to doing it all the rest of the day.
What's that saying? The cobbler's son doesn't wear shoes, something like that. Like it is so true. And I know we really got intentional this past year. Strella accounts, like making sure that we were a lot more intentional than me just like throwing up random whatever. But I think that's kind of key with everything with social media. It should be intentional, really. And so if you don't have anything to say, you don't have anything to say. Oh, right. Maybe you don't. So twice a year is fine. Everybody knows I'm going to get something from Ella twice a year.
Yeah. If you're lucky.
Right? Yep. Oh, all right. Well, I know we're going to wrap up soon, but I thought we could play a little game of remote versus ridiculous. So we're going to run through a couple scenarios and we could both kind of chime in on what we think. All right.
Sure.
So using Zoom filters for every meeting, even serious ones.
Luckily, this isn't something that I've seen a lot. I have had clients that always have like a background on, but I don't find that too weird or distracting. I feel like they probably just do that because their own background maybe isn't very neat or orderly. I think that's been normalized enough that it's not weird. What do you think, though?
I agree with you there, but I think there's like I've seen people in some meetings where they're so blurry that it just seems like their head is floating. and their hair is kind of in the backdrop, and I'm like,
You're right. That does happen sometimes.
It looks really strange. So I think it's okay as long as it's not super like crazy filter, like it can still be blurred background and be professional, in my opinion.
I agree.
All right, next one. Taking a midday nap during work hours to boost productivity.
I mean, I don't know if I'm against that.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I really do. I think, the studies have been done on this. Like a 20-minute nap is like really, really good for you. I just don't nap. Like I can't.
I'm not a good napper either.
It takes me 45 minutes to even try, and then I might get a 5-minute snooze, and then I'm grouchy anyway. So for people who can just nap, I give them a lot of credit. But I can't. So I'm cool with this though.
Yeah. If that's what you need to do, great.
Okay. Attending virtual meetings while cooking lunch in the kitchen.
I already know what you're going to say about this, but I don't like that either. If you've planned a meeting, even if you work from home, I feel like you need to be there and be present and devote your time to that meeting. I've had a meeting. I can't remember if you were there or not. It was with someone that we were looking to collaborate with one of our clients, and she just showed up like super casual, like she was in her pajamas, she was walking around doing stuff, she was like leaning on her kitchen counter talking to us, and I was like, holy cow, like can you just like sit down and talk to us for a second?
Yeah, like unfocused is probably a great word to use to describe people that do that. Like I get multitasking because that's like I'm a chronic multitasker, but I would struggle with having full attention to the meeting if I'm like cooking or whatever I'm doing. Another example, I saw some other ones in here, like taking meetings on mute while you're working out at the gym. Like, to me, like, I do know how I feel about people driving and taking a meeting. No, like, get out of your car and like be focused in the meeting or don't come to the meeting at all.
Yep.
All right, replying to emails from the bathtub. I do that all the time. Mostly the sauna.
I'll reply to emails anywhere.
Hello, you know what job we're in here. We got to respond no matter where we are.
Well, you know what? And sometimes, actually most of the time, my showers happen in the middle of the workday. So like I take like a random half hour in the middle of the day because usually I have to film like a video in the evening or the next day. So I plan out my hair wash day and I'm like, okay, I have, 30 minutes on this random Thursday afternoon to take a shower. And so if I get an email, I'll just respond to it.
Yeah, I get it. I'm the same way. I like my sauna time, but I have to sauna and shower back to back. So that's like a good like hour and a half thing. So that's a long time. That's like a lifetime of social media business. So if I'm seeing emails come through, I'm probably going to respond as long as I can keep it professional.
Yeah. They're never going to know. It's okay.
Well, they'll know it's remote. They just don't have to know from where. Okay.
Exactly.
Let's see. I'll pick another one here. Okay. Bringing pets to meetings and introducing them as coworkers.
I mean, I love pets. Bring your pets. But
I think it's adorable. I mean, as long as your pets aren't obnoxious. Like, if you have like a big dog that's like barking and drooling all over the place, like, no, probably not a good idea. But we've got my cats. Cats do their own thing, so they'll come to the meeting whether they're invited or not. So they may as well be coworkers.
Exactly.
We got a guy who has a hedgehog on the team, Rosie, and so cute, and everyone loves Rosie, so I'm cool with that.
Yeah. For me personally, I have dogs. I love my dogs. But if I know I'm going to be in an important client meeting, I will make sure that my dogs are taken care of. Because if the doorbell rings, they're going to bark. If they see another dog outside, they're going to bark. And I don't want that interrupting the meeting. So depending on the nature of meeting, I'll make sure that my dogs, like my husband has taken them or they're shut upstairs somewhere so they're not interrupting things. But if your dogs aren't obnoxious like mine, I would love to meet them.
I'm totally cool with the pets. I mean, working from home, that's just a staple. As long as they're quiet.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do one more. Okay, assigning your plants official roles like mood manager, oxygen officer, and giving updates on their progress. So, I have a hydroponic garden named Bianca, and I have a whole highlight reel on Instagram for Bianca because I'm fascinated with it. I don't know that I would actually give them official roles, but I've seen that. It's really cute. Like the place I go to get like vitamin supplements, like they have titles for the dog. They have titles for the person at the front. She's Chief Chaos Officer. I think that's cute, and it gives you like a slice of company culture.
That is cute. I wasn't quite sure where this one was going, but I'm good with that. I know sometimes on the Strella story, I've talked about my dogs being my assistants,
Yep.
just because they're always around and
Yep.
they're always there. And when you work from home, sometimes you don't see other people throughout the day, really. So
Yeah. Yeah. You have companionship. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I
your
call,
garden is very cool, by the way.
thank you. I call my cats like productivity specialists or quality assurance animals because like they're overseeing everything. And they'll, like yesterday, Frankie sat right on my laptop, and I'm like, I'm just trying to work right now. So, sometimes they bite themselves, but it's fun. All of this stuff is fun. I think that you could have a good balance with like working from home and still doing the things that are involved in having a home where you work. You know?
Yes, totally. And I think that if I could just leave like a final note, I saw a video the other day where a lady was basically jumping on talking about her experience as a remote worker. And she said that a lot of people, like her family members, assume that just because she's working remote, that like she has time for
Yep.
other things. So, for example, they texted her in the middle of the day, oh, come bring your dog over so that they can play with my dog. And oh, now you can come pick your dog up. And she's like, do you realize that just because I work from home doesn't mean that my job isn't real, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yep.
so I think if more, more people understood that, and if you can understand that too as a remote worker, like this is a real job and
Yes.
you have to have boundaries with other people, but
Yep.
also with yourself. Like, I'm not gonna go take an hour and watch a Netflix show because then I'll never be focused again to get back into work.
Mm-hmm.
So
You
just
are all 100% right because that's something I struggle with all the time with family and friends, whatever. They think I'm just here so they can just roll up in the middle of the day unannounced. Right. I could be in the middle of a meeting. There goes the doorbell. I'm like, oh man, So I've struggled with that, especially with family. They're the worst. My in-laws would just show up with like whatever, and then can I use the bathroom while I'm in town? Like, oh sure. And we brought recyclables here. Just sit on my couch and hang out. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm working, so
right.
make yourself at home. But I can't I've got to finish this. It's really hard for people who don't do it to understand it.
Yes, 100%.
All right. Well, this was a lot of fun, and I hope we opened up some conversations with everybody else who's working remote or not remote. Maybe they've learned a few things. But thanks for everybody for tuning into the Untamed Social Podcast. Bye.
Bye.